Welcome to Bayshore Guest Home and Gardens and our Dear Administrator column. Our guest today is a very special person and also someone that I consider one of the best therapists and has given me a lot of advice through the years. His name is Wade Botkin, licensed mental health and also founder of the Touchstone Wellness Institute.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
One of the things that we have been noticing, and one of the things that I find difficult for the caregiving spouse, is the amount of guilt and emotion that is involved with placing a loved one in a facility.
Right.
A part of them understands that they're doing them a favor because they are worn out and can no longer handle it.
Okay.
But how do they work through that dynamic?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, transitions, a person will ever have in their life. It's a major emotional, crisis, really. It's going to take patience. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in just a few weeks or even a couple of months. It's going to be a long process. And so I think it's important to have, as much support from friends and family. Oftentimes, though, when people are in advanced ages, they don't have the friends and family. They've had losses, and they may not have those people in their lives. So, but whoever they have close to them, it's important, to surround themselves with that and to reach out, to call people, to reach out, to let people know what's going on. Sometimes in families, communication, gets thin over time, and yet this is a time to try to break through some of those patterns and reach out to people and have those people, come a little closer into your life.
What service would someone like yourself be able to provide when it's a discussion that takes place between several children, not always with the same opinion, the caregiving spouse and the ill spouse?
Well, in family situations like that, it's important to have, sort of a moderator, or you might say like a referee, so people can feel heard, and each person can have their voice and feel like they're understood, even though they might have very different opinions about what's happening. It can reduce a lot of tension. And it's not always about coming to a unified conclusion as a family, but initially it's just about people having a space in which they can feel that they can voice, their thoughts and feelings. And when you think about working through emotions, oftentimes where we begin in a conversation is not where we end. So for people to have a space where they can just begin to vent, to begin to talk, to begin to express themselves, they'll find themselves working through issues, and they might find certain emotions are connected to certain things that may surprise them. And so it's going to be a process of discovery, a process of really understanding themselves as they talk it through.
What we suggested, and I wanted to run this by you, we do wish to have a day program.
Okay.
Because most of the times I've found the caregiving spouse ends up being the first one to die or to get extremely ill because of the physical and emotional toll that it takes on them to take care of them.
That's a big risk.
And often when their families are scattered throughout the states. I also thought that it would be a gentler introduction where they could come with their spouse, have lunch, spend the afternoon, the next day maybe leave the spouse an hour or two, leave, come back, and sort of make it to where the spouse feels comfortable, has made friends, and it is a much softer way of moving into a facility. How do you feel about that?
I think that's an excellent idea. I think, that every situation is unique. That may not be the best approach for everybody. But I think in many cases that would be an excellent way to begin and to explore this option and give people space to kind of explore what feelings come up and the back and forth, kind of going back and forth and not sort of diving in all at one time. I think that is a really good idea, and that you can offer that and be flexible with that. I would think there are probably some facilities that, you know, they may not have the, for lack of a better word, the patience to kind of do a procedure like that. So if that's something that can be offered, I think that's a really good idea.
One other thing we've offered is, to certain families, is a free respite care pass, which means that free of charge, they may bring their loved one for a weekend so that they can have their downtime, because the toll it takes on the caregiving spouse is tremendous.
Right, right. And like you said, this often, you know, can literally be a cause of death. You know, that much stress and strain on any one person who is intensely 24/7 taking care of another person. And so that's that's what they need. They need, you know, we all need a break from stress when we're under that amount of pressure.
So, Wade, would you be available to come to Bayshore and help the families transition here if they feel that they need some help and are suffering from depression?
Absolutely, I would be available for that, and I think also, you know, for those families to maybe be part of a group outside of Bayshore, so they maybe feel like they can talk freely, you know, about their feelings and emotions, and you know, just a space for that to happen. But a support group, I think, is a good idea, and yes, I'm available to come here to work with people directly too.
Thank you. Namaste. On behalf of Bayshore Guest Home and Gardens, dear Administrator and Wade Botkin, good evening.